Totally Football Show. Today, Champions League Wednesday, Olympiakos for some, a limp performance for others. We round up the results from Newcastle's Union busting to Monaco Man City and the Dier decision ? Then it's Premier League Match Day 7, last round before the international break. Will the leaders be the Gunners? Will Ruben be a goner? Ponder it all, we're gonna in this Totally Football Show. Thursday, 2nd of October. Hi there, listener. Got a Totally crew for you today, comprising Tom Williams. All right, Tom?
Hello, James. All
Lovely,
right.
Tom.
Thank you. Yourself also.
Jack Lang's here.
James.
Lovely to see you, Jack. And also, welcome back, Liam Tharme.
Thank you. Good morning, James.
It's been a while, Liam.
It has.
You've been on the athletics beat.
Have I?
Haven't you?
Well, I guess so. I guess I'm always on the beat.
Yeah, I bet you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mean athletics as in the sport, as in rather than the beat of the organisation who we all work for? That momentarily threw me, but I get you now.
Yeah, I can see the confusion.
I just that's the problem we have with it. Where
We'll go again, listener.
No.
Pretend you
I
didn't
keep
hear that
it.
last.
Keep
That's
it in.
fine.
I
You've
think-
been covering
I think it
athletics for
Correct.
the Athletic.
Yes,
Liam.
that's right, James. Yeah.
Bingo.
Had a good fun this summer.
Listener, you joined us just in time because we've already covered some meaty topics today. Tom's thrown in a bit of Proust.
Jack forced me into it, but I did, yeah.
Yeah. What was the context, Tom?
Jack was... This is a rare for Jack, very rare even, I would say, but he had made an inaccurate reference to Proust's Madeleine and as to when one might have recourse to refer to it.
All right. I enjoyed him deploying the Madeleine, but as you correctly pointed out, it was misplaced.
A white whale situation.
Yeah, I suppose.
He's got it back.
This stems from the fact
pulled it out the fire.
this stems from the fact that Cornwall famously lacks two things, Jack.
Quite a lot of things, but in the context that we were talking, a motorway and a KFC. So it was one of the things that I was disproportionately excited about when I moved to London at 18.
Right.
Not the motorway, the KFC.
I was disproportionately excited about the fact that Time Out have just announced that the coolest neighborhood in the world is in Tokyo, and it's called Jimbōchō. Isn't that fun?
Incredible.
Jimbōchō, which is full of bookshops, apparently, as you'd expect, Liam. And what else do we have this morning? Oh, yeah. What's his name? Renato Shampoo?
Mauro Shampoo.
Mauro Shampoo.
Yeah.
So you were listening to our recent Totally Extra on the subject of the worst team in Premier League history.
The Derby County episode, yeah.
A sensitive and compassionate retelling of their calamitous season.
Yeah. And it rang a bell because I am currently writing a piece about a team that calls itself the worst team in the world.
Yeah, I feel that's not really the idea, is it? You're not supposed to be the...
Well, this is the thing, James. When the piece is out in a week or two, they actually really lean into it. And they've made it their brand and are beloved for it.
Okay. And who is Massimo Shampoo?
Mauro Shampoo, the non-Italian version of my guy, was their star player in a way, but only scored once in about 10 years.
Okay.
And
he looks fabulous.
He's a hairdresser by profession.
He looks a little bit like that unfortunate Man United fan who has vowed not to visit a barber's until United win 5 games in a row. How are they doing on that? What's the closest they've come to 5 in a row?
Has Amorim even won back-to-back games?
They
They're a long way. I mean, not
games.
many teams win 5 in a row. Anyway, even good ones, you often get a draw or a loss in there. So 5 is
I think it was
bold.
2 the whole of the last Premier League season. 2 teams managed it, I think.
Yeah. And I think even Liverpool didn't manage 5 in a row, did they? So
There's always a rogue draw in there at some point, and that's fine. But if you're counting for 5, then it's you might have a while to go yet.
We'll discuss maybe whether they can start a new winning run this very weekend. But first of all,
whether there's a danger that becomes medically problematic at some point. At what point does your hair get so heavy that he's going to require medical intervention?
Cause of death, Manchester United.
Yeah, can you imagine? His head gets so heavy from the hair.
You and I have many questions about
This is why I asked the question. I know not of what I speak, but
I think that for many millennia, humans existed without barbers. And as far as I know, it was more likely to be a saber-toothed tiger or mammoth that killed you.
It starts getting in his eyes and he can't see. What if it causes an accident?
Just
you know,
have a hairband or tie it up.
He's got it's a proper.
Yeah,
it's a very.
It's amazing.
Well, yeah.
It's a real thicket of hair, though, isn't it? He's got very thick-looking hair.
He has.
We are in a new era of super chunky footballer headbands.
I was going to mention
Anthony Gordon's
incredible. Covers his entire forehead.
Yeah, absolutely massive acreage.
It reminded me of the Sunderland fellow. What was his name?
Sunderland headband.
Massive, and he was bald underneath. That was the thing. Gervinho.
Gervinho.
Oh, Gervinho. Yes. Of course. Yeah, similar. Similar. Because Anthony Elanga sports a sizable headband,
but thin.
But a thinner one.
not
Anthony Elanga's, Anthony Gordon's headband covers his entire forehead.
It's awful, I think.
Something about Anthony's and headbands.
I mean, clearly. And there was someone on playing for Union Saint-Gilloise, the opposition, who was wearing like a little dainty kind of Patrick Berger style 90s headband.
Right.
And it was just a reminder that you don't need to go that big. Yeah. There are other options. I find it an interesting stylistic decision.
Okay.
Have you seen the tweet about Anthony Gordon trying to do all the Lady Diana haircuts? Yeah. He's probably just trying to escape that. Yeah. I just got to get something to cover this up.
Yeah. Looking for a Lady Diana headband picture as we speak. Okay, well, that was one of the takeaways from Wednesday night's action. Newcastle getting their biggest ever win in the Champions League proper, 4-0 away at Union Saint-Gilloise. Elsewhere, Wednesday saw a late goal from Gonzalo Ramos as Paris Saint-Germain triumphed 2-1 away to Barcelona and Monaco. Arsenal were 2-0 winners against Olympiakos. Manchester City, meanwhile, saw 2 points disappear right at the death of their clash with Monaco, with Eric Dier winning and converting a penalty to make it 2-2. Same scoreline for Villarreal at home to Juventus, and a late equaliser for the home side there too, courtesy of Renato Vega, his first goal for the Spanish side. Napoli beat Sporting 2-1. Rasmus Haaland getting a brace there, both set up by Kevin De Bruyne. Dortmund thumped Athletic Bilbao 4-1. It was all square between Leverkusen and PSV, and Karabakh beat Copenhagen 2-0. That's 2 wins out of 2 for the champions of Azerbaijan. And I do want to call them prisoners. One of 6 clubs on 2 wins out of 2. The other 5 being Arsenal, Inter, Real Madrid, Bayern, and your Paris Saint-Germain. Woof. Should we start with the Paris Saint-Germain and their trip to Barcelona, the eagerly anticipated clash on Wednesday night? Gonzalo Ramos won the match there at Montjuic, coming on as he does, Liam, scoring a winner as he does.
Yeah, it's a great part of the PSG puzzle, really, that for all the kind of technical brilliance and the versatile players they've got, Luis Enrique's still got space in the squad for just a pure number 9. Guys got a World Cup hat-trick, and it's kind of, people see it as almost reduced to coming off the bench and playing a role that way, but came off the bench to score in the Super Cup, has had a lot of late goals for PSG across the seasons. And that's why he's there on a day where they don't have Ousmane Dembele, and they start Mayoulou, a youngster and more of a midfielder and kind of a false 9 role. Sometimes you need that player to come on, especially when Barcelona were so aggressively high with that defensive line.
A lot of people asking about that. And that's a Hansi Flick trademark. It is Bayern days and at Barca as well.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think the tactic was inherently a problem. It was kind of the left back and centre back were trying to, one was filling in with the other, and they tried to basically switch back and then went, oh no, we've got to, kind of panicked. And that was why Hakimi, I think, ended up in so much space. So it was more the execution of it that was inherently a problem. And it's a margins thing as well, because Ramos had obviously jogged so far offside and held his position just right that, it was I think a really good PSG move rather than anything poor defensively.
What I did like was that it wasn't just onside because one defender was back. The 4 players were playing him onside. So, if you're gonna, if you're gonna be done like that.
Tom, you weren't able to see any of this because
I did.
Oh, you did?
I saw it all, James.
I thought you were meant to be watching Monaco Man City.
I watched them both. I second screened.
Which one was your first screen?
PSG.
Yeah. I think it was for all of us now. Did it? I know it was a cracking game, and there were some beautiful moments in it. 27 shots in total, a late winner. Not for me, and I hope I'm not wrong about this, but it didn't quite live up to and I feel that's because it was the second stage of the league phase, and they all feel a bit like exhibition matches.
What were you hoping for that was missing? What would you need? Is it more goals?
No, it just didn't. I didn't get the sense that it mattered too much.
I think there was a slight tendency in the run-up to be, this was the final that we should have had last year. And so they're kind of, it's almost kind of a go again. But yeah, there's just no peril in the group stage. And I think it was a good match. It was interesting, some nice attacking football. But yeah, it did lack a little bit of the, the pure desperation, I think, that comes with knockout football. And the reality is, I don't think any match in the group stage is going to get your heart pumping in this format, frankly.
Right. I think people had that issue with the old group stage, but you had less time to make up any mistakes in that one, whereas when you got 8, there's plenty of time to rectify any missteps.
Although, last season we saw that there was a degree of jeopardy towards the end of the league phase. The PSG Man City game, which was kind of the big turning point in PSG's season, that was in the league phase, and that felt crucial. And, Real Madrid, Man City also went into those matches needing results. But yeah, in the second group game, you're not going to have that sense of jeopardy. But I thought it was a really impressive result for PSG, particularly given all the absentees. I mean, they were missing 6 of the players who started the Champions League final, 5 through injury, and Gianluigi Donnarumma, who's obviously no longer there. And the first kind of 20 minutes made you think that they might really struggle. Barca were on top. Barca got the opening goal. But second half in particular, it felt like they just kind of ground Barca down, and you kind of find yourself thinking a draw's a decent result here for PSG in the circumstances. So for them to go on and win it at the end with no Dembele, Doué, Kvaratskhelia, João Neves, etc., is a really strong sign of how much depth there is in their squad, and kind of shows that they remain the team to beat.
Lovely to see Lamine Yamal back.
That dribble in the second minute. When you think about the amount of expectation there is around him, the excitement that he generates, the extent to which people look forward to watching him, and literally the first time he touches the ball, it's that little shimmy, step over, roulette.
Right. I think it's the best left back in the world as well, according to Chat Lang.
Yeah, I don't see there's much of a debate about that, unless you'd like to...
Come on then.
I bet. Well, you're probably a Federico Di Marco fundamentalist. I think he is a very good player. Has been pretty bad recently.
Yeah.
I don't see many other options out there, to be honest. And I was writing about this in our briefing piece. For me, actually, an argument to be made that he's the best fullback, full stop. Like Hakimi would probably have something to say about that, but Mendes to me is maybe a little bit more complete than Hakimi.
Better defensively.
A touch better defensively, but also I think Mendes is a really good passer between the lines. Like, he can do the whole bombing down the wing thing.
Right.
Obviously set up the goal with a run that drove him inside, but actually on the ball, when he can pick out those passes, like it's often Fabian Ruiz in between the lines, really astute passer of the ball as well, and very young. Yeah, fantastic player.
That goal that he set up for 19-year-old Seni Mayulu, who'd featured to devastating effect in that ever so tight Champions League final against Inter. The opening goal from Barcelona. What a lovely move that was. Marcus Rashford as well. Some people have questioned how well he would integrate with Barcelona, but he looked pretty integrated there.
I didn't think he was in the game massively, and it quite impressed me. He felt quite disjointed. A lot was going down Barca's right-hand side, because obviously they had Lamine Yamal there. And I thought really they looked most threatening when they actually made those regains in midfield. PSG had a few errors, and it got to a point where it felt like Rashford and Yamal, especially I think in the second half, were kind of just clipping switches of play to each other as soon as they got the ball back. So I think that was a sign of an attacker being in good form, or real confidence. And like Hakimi tends to leave that space as well with how aggressive he tends to play. That Rashford, even though he wasn't kind of on the ball all the time, didn't have the touches that Yamal did, definitely had a really big impact on the game. So I think it bodes well for him.
And then the Gonzalo Ramos goal in the 90th minute, which made it 2-1 and was the first ever 90th minute winner that a visiting team have scored at Barcelona in the history of European competition. That's a remarkable stat. Best fullback in the world. Should he have actually had a red card in this game?
Yeah, definitely. He was booked for a cynical / smart foul on Yamal in the first half, and then tripped Yamal pretty clearly on the edge of his own box about an hour in. And Michael Oliver, I guess.
Yeah, Michael Oliver
just wanted us to chat about how good Mendes is today.
Is that the aura of Nuno Mendes?
I think so.
That he's not, referees are scared to send him off.
Good week for the French sides, Tom?
It was, yeah. Marseille with a fantastic win against Ajax on Tuesday.
4-0.
4-0. And then Monaco completely unexpectedly getting a point off City.
Very, very deservedly.
Very deservedly.
Was it?
Well, in the sense that they were under the cosh. City hit the bar a couple of times. City created chances. City should have won. But, Monaco had spells of pressure. Donnarumma had to make a really good one-handed save from Magnus Akliouche with about half an hour to play. They did manage to create periods of pressure and ultimately punish City for not doing more with all the possession they had. But Monaco couldn't really have gone into this match in worse nick. A huge long list of injury absentees, pretty sketchy form up to date. They lost 4-1 to Club Brugge in their opening game and defended like a team of under-7s. And in the pre-match press conference, Adi Hütter was asked for reasons to believe in his team. And the only thing he could come up with was, well, in football, you never know. In football, you never know. Which suggested that he accepted that they were probably going to lose quite comfortably. And as it turned out, it was not the case.
No, thanks to Eric Dier.
Yeah, a long tradition of English footballers playing for Monaco and having their names mangled by commentators. In the late 80s, you had Glenn Hoddle and Marc Atley. So now you have Eric Dier as well.
I don't regard that as mangling. I think that's a significant upgrade. Given a bit of continental elan.
True. I guess it depends on
How do they introduce you on Match of the Day?
Tom Williams.
Oh, that's lovely, isn't it?
And then I have to pronounce all the team names in an absurd French accent.
Go on then.
Manchester United, Liverpool, Bournemouth. I cannot tell you how much French people struggle with Bournemouth. Because French people cannot pronounce the TH. So you get Bournemouth quite a lot. Bournemouth. And obviously I can pronounce my THs, but I don't want to rub it in. Right. So I kind of Bournemouth. So
was it Southampton?
Southampton, yeah. Right. Kenilworth Road. When Luton were in the Premier League, all manner of pronunciation. Kenilworth Road. And sometimes they will take an extremely banal-looking name and give it new life. Will Hughes. Who's got a more boring name than Will Hughes? Very few footballers. Will Hughes. And you're watching Crystal Palace, even if you're not really paying attention, every time you hear Oogs. Who was the other one? Jeff Schlupp.
Oh dear.
Jeff Schlupp in a French accent. Schlupp. Jeff Schlupp.
Somewhere there's an equivalent German podcast chortling over the mangling we do to various
big time.
German names and so on and so forth. But anyway, that's a fascinating little window.
That could be your next book about the language of football.
How to mangle.
Anyway, we're talking about Man City at Monaco. Erling Haaland scored with his first touch of the game. In fact, stats extraordinary. He scored 2 goals in this game, taking him to 52 goals in 50 Champions League appearances. 2 goals in this game, but he only completed 1 pass in the first half. Remarkable.
Whose passes when you...
That was a kickoff, was it?
Sticking them in the back of the net.
Well, the kickoff was one of his 7 touches, I think, in the first half. 2 of which resulted in goals.
As many as 7.
And he was annoyed that he'd not scored more.
Is that right?
Because he had a chance at 1-1. Philip Kern, the Monaco goalkeeper, pushed out a shot and Haaland came in. Kind of looked like he had an open goal, but it was quite a tight angle. And then second half, towards the end, he had a shot that was well saved. But I wouldn't say it's becoming a recurring problem for City, but this is, I think, the 3rd or 4th time this season where they've seemed to be in control of a game and not put it to bed. Obviously, that's what happened against Arsenal with the draw, Gabriel Martinelli equalising in stoppage time. Similar thing happened in the defeat at Brighton where they went ahead, got pegged back and then conceded a late winner. And in terms of their possession and the chances they created, they hit the crossbar twice. So they were literally millimetres away from winning this game, 3-1 or 4-1. But it is a bit of an issue. And I kind of wonder in this new phase in City's development where they don't just completely dominate all aspects of the game and they look to hit on the break a little bit more, does it make them a bit more vulnerable to being caught out like this at the end of games?
I would have thought the opposite, no? If you're...
if City are setting up their stall in the opposition half and just keeping their opponents a mile from their goal, then it doesn't matter that they're not adding a 3rd or a 4th goal. But when they're content to sit back, which they do more and more frequently these days,
possession in a
it leaves them
area.
open. And Monaco had made a couple of decent chances even before the free kick that led to the penalty at the end.
We should salute Jordan Teze, is it?
Yes, yeah.
Tez.
Teze, I think.
Who equalised for Monaco straight after Erling Haaland's first goal. And then the second Monegasque strike was from the spot, courtesy of Eric Dier, who'd won the penalty after being kicked in the head, or was he? Was that fair, do you think, Jack? What was your take?
I didn't see it multiple times.
I think he was shinned in the head.
It looked reasonable to me.
It was like the Wayne Rooney overhead kick against Man City in 2011 of penalty area challenges, and that it was shin rather than foot.
What I like, though, is that Dier took the penalty with grass and debris still on his forehead.
No,
but I like that. In this, you watch,
it's a battle
Cristiano Ronaldo look at himself on the big screen 100 times a game and touch his hair, and a lot of players do this. Dier just I'm in the battle, in the zone.
Excellent.
Rate it.
You had something else, I think, you wanted to offer on this game.
Yeah, with City, what strikes me a lot with Guardiola, not just this season, but in previous seasons, is I think it's quite a rare thing for an elite team to have a non-fixed best back four. Like City rotate at the back more than any other top team I can think of. You've got Gvardiol playing left back one week, centre back the next week. Akanji right back, centre back, been loaned to Inter Milan. They've got Kuzanov playing some weeks, doesn't play for then 3 or 4 weeks. John Stones disappears for months at a time, comes back in at right back. Rico Lewis is right back, centre midfield. You've got all these players, they're all really good, but there's no settled back four. And I think that, Guardiola has forgotten more about football in the last 10 minutes than I will ever know. But it strikes me as quite rare.
Curiously, at a time when he's shifting things around in his defence, his midfield and attack are more settled than they have ever been. I can't remember there having ever been a time before when you knew which midfield and attack would be aligned. And I think that speaks to the fact that we are still emerging from City's very problematic last season. And I don't think Guardiola trusts himself to make loads of changes in attacking areas week to week. He knows that when it's, Silva, Foden, Reinders, Doku, Haaland, they're going to do what he wants them to do. And I guess it's also a reflection of the injury situation, Xhaka being out, Marmoush being out, etc. But in almost every other previous Man City season, there has just been this constant conveyor belt of changes in attack. And in the last few weeks, the famous Pep Roulette, which FPL managers in particular have come to, learn to regret. But at the present time, there is a very set hierarchy in midfield and attack.
I think he's done that with centre-backs for a long time now, though, right? Especially with Ruben Dias and kind of seasons gone past. And he said that kind of they've all got different profiles and City end up playing sort of different types of games against different teams, and therefore he needs those different profiles. I mean, when you look at how this starting 11 is kind of balanced, it's like a textbook modern kind of Guardiola against a back five low block type team where you've got basically 4 big dudes at the back. You've got a centre back playing out at right back. You've got Rodri sat in the kind of number 6 role. You've got your big guy up front, and then you've got 4 small technicians and quick technical players all kind of in midfield and out wide. And it's just that massive contrast where the size and physicality difference of where he does want it with his kind of proper defenders at the back, and there where he then wants kind of his pocket players and his technical guys out wide.
They're at Brentford at the weekend, who've got an excellent record at home. Held Chelsea to draw, beat Aston Villa, beat Man United last time out. It'll be interesting to see if City stays settled for that one. We'll talk more about Premier League match day. What are we on now? 7. A bit later on, but the other Premier League sides, Arsenal were 2-0 winners against Olympiakos. Martinelli started the scoring, Saka ended it. Gunners with a couple of nervy moments in between, including a shot from Daniel Podence, which brought one of the saves of the midweek. Did you see this, Liam?
I did. It's a curious award, though. No, a save of the midweek is a...
It's a thing.
Is it?
Yeah. It's a thing. I would offer the Vanya Milenkovic save in Napoli's clash with Sporting, in which he was essentially going the wrong way, but still managed to swat the ball phenomenally powerfully away, just kind of probably went out for a throw-in or something. He really whacked it. Lovely. But anyway, yeah, both great saves. Let's just enjoy them both, eh?
Well, indeed. But yeah, hell of a save from Raya. And I think Joe Cole made this point on the TNT coverage last night, but there was an awful lot of scepticism when Arsenal signed him because he was taken over from Aaron Ramsdale, young English goalkeeper, doing reasonably well. But Raya, I think now is he's not one of the best goalkeepers in the world, but he's in the group of goalkeepers right below that. He's super consistent, pulls off some extraordinary saves, is excellent with the ball at his feet, extremely consistent, wins Arsenal points in the manner of a goalkeeper in a title-winning team.
Right.
And I think it's to Arsenal's credit that they saw that potential. Because I don't think anyone else was looking at David Raya at that point and thinking this is a guy who can be a kind of final piece in the jigsaw.
There you go, David Raya, very good, not quite as good as some others, but still good enough to maybe win a title. Who would be the ones that you'd have at the top of the pile? I'm guessing, is there a Thibaut Courtois in there?
Yeah, well, Courtois, Donnarumma.
Donnarumma, you'd have him in there, yeah?
Yeah, I think on the back of last season.
Yeah.
They're all more specialists though, right? Raya's big strength is he's probably 8 out of 10 in everything. He's one of the best in the league in terms of kind of dominating his box. You imagine it works quite well with Arsenal and training, just practicing all their in-swinging corners, and he deals with them just fine, and most other kind of goalkeepers can't. That Brentford for so long, he was so good at when they were sat deep and just facing crosses, he could come out and protect them that way. So I think to have all those elements at a really good level probably isn't quite the Donnarumma kind of shot stopper or quite
Alisson.
the Alisson 1v1s or Edison kind of with the distribution, but I think to have all of those at a really high level is really important, and sometimes better than having just one pure specialist.
Right, because Nuno Mendes is the best fullback in the world, so I'm keen to find out who the best keeper is. Jack?
I was going to mention Alisson.
Alisson, right, yeah.
We have
Enormous hands as well, David Raya. I mean, lots of goalkeepers do, but he has famously like basketball player size hands. And there's on his mosaic next to the Emirates, he's kind of posing with his hands like that.
Right.
And it's just around the corner from me, so I see those hands. Well, I don't see
They're
the
close to
actual
the
hands.
camera,
I see
yeah.
it, but
perspective, Tom.
I think it's partly perspective.
Is it size? Yeah,
but
it's not as big.
They're big old hands. I'm telling you.
Is it to scale the?
It looks to scale. I've not measured it. I'll report back. Leave it with me.
A lot of people with a lot of love for Odegaard's performance in this game as well.
This is very unscientific, but he just looked bouncy. Like he has been quite bad for quite a while, and he looks just kind of going through the motions. He had that kind of Odegaard at his best, just energy to him.
Oh, nice.
Played a couple of really lovely through balls, one of which would have led to a goal if Victor Gyökeres had passed.
Good Lord, Tom's just shown us a
big
picture.
hands.
I mean, going to say perspective's the key word.
Yeah,
really.
they are. Are they big or just closer to the screen?
They are. I think there's. Hang on, I saw a measurement before.
Okay, Tom's going to look at that. I'll mention that Arsenal...
22 centimetres.
I don't know how big that is.
How big is that?
The length from the tip of his middle finger to the base of his palm estimated to be 22 centimetres. This hand size is disproportionate to his height.
That checks
and is
out,
roughly 3 centimetres longer and 2.3 centimetres wider than the average male hand, making it an advantageous attribute for a goalkeeper.
But do you not think all goalkeepers will have hands like
Probably
that?
to an extent.
Yeah. Same way you got like high jumpers that have all got like an 8 foot long Achilles tendon, just because that is what makes you then good at.
Is that right?
Job. Yeah, not 8 foot. I've exaggerated, but
well, I don't know. I might fold back and forth. Strange stuff goes on in the body. Lord knows. Newcastle, we touched on this before. 4-0 winners away at Union Saint-Gilloise, who'd started the Champions League phase with a big 3-1 win away at PSV Eindhoven. So it's a good result. And yet another goal from Waldemade, although how much was his involvement key to that goal?
Well, he could have probably moved out the way and it'd still have gone in, I think.
Still gone in.
Well, it's, I don't want to go textbook, it's good feet for a big guy, but I'm still uncertain if he actually flicked it in or if it hit the defender. It took me a lot of rewatches and I wasn't sure.
I think he did.
Yeah, because he kind of celebrated, but I couldn't tell if it was enough of a celebration where it was his goal and you didn't kind of see a conversation between him and Tonali where he's like, no, you get someone as a striker pointing, no, it's me, I've touched it kind of thing. I
thought there was.
He kind of let Tonali celebrate, so yeah, whether it was a hierarchical thing of respecting a more senior player, I don't know. But it would be quite funny if you just kind of let someone else think that they've scored the goal and they go, actually, I've got that, mate. No, neat flick.
Waldemade has been in the news all week. Once people picked up on Karl-Heinz Rummenigge's comments that Newcastle was stupid to pay that much money. Not stupid to buy him, but stupid to pay that much money. But when you look at his performances so far, 3 goals in just 4 starts for his new club, you could make an argument that of all the Bundesliga goal-scoring signings this summer, he's been the most effective.
I think, a risky comments to make, right? Because they only really would, if he does perform poorly, I don't think you're ever very much vindicated by that. It's more likely to be a thing that's quite motivating for a club and a player to hear that some egg left on face.
And you can understand Bayern's frustration. I mean, traditionally, it's so hard for them to sign players from their Bundesliga rivals. So, it must really great to see another one slipping through their fingers.
Anthony Gordon had 2 penalties. Harvey Barnes completed the victory. Among the positives were Anthony Gordon on one side and Elanga on the other. Newcastle fans calling this his best performance yet for the club, which is interesting because they've got his old side turning up at the weekend.
Well, it was the first time that those 3 players have lined up from the start. And on paper, that looks like Newcastle's first choice front 3. And Elanga was brilliant. I mean, just so quick that there's very little you can do against him. I mean, if he wants to beat a fullback, chances are he just will. And it was his cross in towards Voltemada that paved the way for the opening goal. Gordon scores the 2 penalties, and I thought Gordon's work rate was exceptional. He wins the ball back at the start of the move that leads to the 4th goal, scored by Harvey Barnes coming off the bench. And Newcastle's issue this season so far has been scoring goals. They've been extremely solid. I think they've had, 3 0-0 draws? And so defensively, they look pretty solid. It's been an attack that things haven't been clicking. This performance against Union Saint-Gilloise suggests that things might actually be starting to click.
Excellent. In the league, they're currently down in 15th spot, Newcastle United, as they wait for Forest at the weekend. Forest, who are in action tonight as we record Thursday evening in the Europa League. They are hosting Midtjylland. So maybe Ange Postecoglou will have won a game as Forest manager by the time they go to St James's. Anyway, elsewhere in the Champions League, Juve had a 2-2 draw with Villarreal. As we mentioned, Renato Vega with a late equaliser.
Miss of the week by a mile by Jonathan David in that. Oh, poor guy.
I've seen that.
Poor guy. Far post. The ball's going quite fast. He just chooses the wrong foot to kick it with. It's great.
Rasmus Haaland got a brace as Napoli beat Sporting at the Maradona. And Kevin De Bruyne, who finished their game at the weekend in slightly fractious fashion, arguing with Conte, or at least letting his dissatisfaction be very visible as he left the field after being subbed off by Antonio Conte, the defeat by Milan. Responding here with, that first assist was glorious. Now he gallops 50 yards or so and then slides it through for Rasmus Haaland, and Rasmus Haaland's now got 3 goals in 5 games. 3 goals, as many as he scored in 35 games for Man United last season.
Proving the continued point about players leaving Manchester United either getting better or reverting to just kind of how good they were before. The first one is textbook Haaland, right? Kind of the big spaces in transition. But the second goal one is really nice. I mean, it's a great ball in kind of a reworked short corner and like an in-swinging cross from a slightly deeper angle. But he's pretty brave. He gets right between goalkeeper and centre-back, proper like old-fashioned like English number 9 type header of get your head between the keeper and the defender, and really good finish.
Excellent, good result as well for Napoli. Dortmund had a 4-1 win against Athletic Club de Bilbao. Dortmund, who were held to a 4-4 draw by Juventus in their opening game, piling on the goals for the second match in a row in this competition. Kani Chukwuemeka among the scorers, and Adeyemi looking dangerous, and Dortmund things basically. Leverkusen weren't so fortunate, finished 1-1 their clash with PSV, the Peter Bosch derby, as producer Charlie dubs it. He offers this fun fact. In Leverkusen's starting 11 was Tillman, in PSV's starting 11 were both Till and Mann.
Very nice.
It's an unusual weekend in the Premier League. Starts on the Friday, 4 games on the Saturday, and then 5 on the Sunday. That's thanks to this Europa League and Europa Conference League business. Friday anyway, it's Bournemouth up against, is it Fulham? Did they say Fulham?
Oh, no. Fulham.
Fulham. The Cherries will go second if they win that game for a day at least. Saturday at lunchtime, it's Leeds against Spurs. Then at 3 o'clock, Man United, Sunderland. One of those teams is in 5th place. The other is in 14th. Sunderland, in fact, made the best start by a newly promoted side for 13 years in the Premier League.
Since Big Sam's West Ham, is it?
Indeed.
Football heritage right there.
And the other game at 3 o'clock is Arsenal West Ham. Is that right? West Ham?
West Ham.
Okay. Arsenal.
Les Hammers.
Les Hammers.
They like nicknames a lot. And they use curious nicknames that have fallen out of fashion in this country.
For example?
Like, when was the last time you heard someone refer to Leeds as the Peacocks?
I'm sorry?
We get that quite a lot. Les Peacocks. Quelle victoire pour les Peacocks.
Right. What do they call Spurs then?
Lily Whites?
No, they just les Spurs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you got a Peacock Cockerel derby Saturday lunchtime.
Yes. Whoa. Yeah.
That is going to be vicious. Arsenal West Ham, anyway, at Les Hammers, and Arsenal will go top with a win for a couple of hours at least, because at 5:30, current number ones Liverpool will be trying their luck away at Chelsea. Liverpool have lost their last two in all competitions. Chelsea have lost their last two in the Premier League. So, interesting game, that one. Sunday, 4 games taking place at 2 o'clock. Wow. Everton Palace, Newcastle Forest, Wolves Brighton, and Villa Burnley. Then at 4:30, capping the round off, Brentford Man City. Wow. Quick reminder at the top of the table. Liverpool are 2 clear of Arsenal. Palace are a point behind. Then you got Spurs, Sunderland and Bournemouth, a point behind them, and 1 ahead of Man City. Down at the other end, Burnley, West Ham and Wolves are the bottom 3, with Wolves already 4 points from safety. Man United, Newcastle, Villa and Forest are all within a defeat of the relegation places. Crikey. Wonder what it's going to look like after this weekend, when we got, of course, an international break. With all that implies, a lot of people wondering if clubs might be eyeing up that extended period without football, maybe making some tweaks to their organisation. Among the many questions is what kind of effect Nuno Espirito Santo will have had at West Ham. You got a point away at Everton after 1 day's training, now with a week with the Les Hammers. Could they go and do their usual number on the Gunners?
Yes. I mean, yeah, West Ham in recent years have had a great record against Arsenal.
They've won their last 2 visits to the Emirates. In fact, the Gunners have only lost 4 of their last 42 matches at home, and 2 of those were against West Ham.
And wasn't there was the draw at the end of 2022-23 season that served as one of the many nails in the coffin of Arsenal's title ambitions. Oh, yeah. So even when they're not beating Arsenal, they're doing them damage. And we did see in that game at Everton some indications as to what Nuno is gonna bring to West Ham. Fulkrug straight in, so he likes a big strapping number 9.
Right,
Callum Wilson out, Fulkrug in. And on paper, looking at the respective form of the 2 teams, particularly Everton's home form, you thought, okay, well, this will be a comfortable Everton victory. And West Ham came out of it with a creditable draw. And you would expect that Nuno will tighten them up. They have been extremely poor since the start of the season. So yeah, I guess the expectation is that he will make them harder to break down. And as much as they tried to kind of stray from the David Moyes formula in appointing Julen Lopetegui and then Graham Potter, you kind of feel like in the West Ham DNA, that kind of football is probably still present. So perhaps it won't be all that difficult to kind of reconfigure them back to what they were before.
He did something in that Everton game, which I always love when a new manager does this and they come in. Just picked out a player that I never heard of. This may just be me, but Sungutu Magasa, the defensive midfielder. You're straight in there. You're my guy. I think that's such a fun statement of intent. But if you look at the West Ham team, they have so many good players. Like Bowen is in great form. Paquetá is a great player. Mateus Fernandes, I thought, was in a really bad Southampton team. He had a good season last season. They have got the players.
Somerville back foot was really big. Him and Juve down that left side especially. I mean, Juve's the quality of his crossing is absolutely fantastic. You think that seems like kind of a nailed on recipe of good crosser plus big man in the penalty area that thrives off crosses should bring them goals. I think the big issue for them this weekend against Arsenal is West Ham have been utterly abject at defending corners in particular. I mean, it was a second face ball, fair enough for the Everton opener, but they did leave Michael Keane in I think probably close to an acre of space in the box on his own. And obviously Arsenal are a phenomenal set-piece team, so probably the game plan needs to be concede as few corners as possible rather than try and actually defend them particularly well. But as the guys say, I think that whole attack probably needs to be built more around Bowen than Fulkrug, to be honest. Bowen's kind of versatility, he can score, he can create. He always seems to pop up with goals when they need it as well. And they've just got such a capacity to come alive in a period, West Ham. I think you can watch them for a game, they can be poor for 60 minutes, 70 minutes, but will often have a 15, 20-minute spell where they can get something from the game without ever kind of being convincing. So there's all the ingredients there, and that's without Thomas Souček in the midfield as well, who's been a key player.
A lot of positives there for the Hammers as they travel to Arsenal. It's a delicate weekend this for the title race. Liverpool, who are 2 points clear. We talked about this a little bit in Wednesday's show. Their trip to Chelsea. Not only are they looking to avoid a third defeat in a week, Arne Slot's side, but they'll also be doing it without Alisson, one of the top keepers in the world. And Ekitike's a doubt too, I believe.
He came off early midweek, so you'd think so. I mean, doubtful whether he would be starting anyway. I don't think Arne Slot has yet done the Isak Ekitike double act. It might be something we see in the future. But yeah, interesting with Liverpool because, probably only 10 days ago, everyone was saying they're not playing their best, but they're still winning. This is such a fantastic sign. And how quickly things can, turn around, not just in terms of the injuries, but in terms of the way the attack particularly is clicking. There are a lot of noises about Salah's form, rightly so, I think, whether he and Wirtz can do their individual things while also creating the kind of synergy that Liverpool had last year.
And Wirtz's positional presence in the team, what it means in terms of players who aren't there and the lack of consistency in midfield. As a result, Chelsea, though, bare bones at the back. Trevor Chalobah suspended for this game, so probably going to see some of those unfamiliar names that you like so much, Jack Lang, lining up.
Yeah, your Josh Achimpongs, get in there.
Your Joro Hattos. Indeed.
And it is ironic, given that Enzo Maresca spent a significant proportion of the summer politely and perhaps not so politely asking the club to sign a new centre-back for him, and he was told, no, you've got enough. And now that is really being tested because they're almost all injured. And Chelsea are not looking very good.
5:30 on Saturday, those two teams face off. City, meanwhile, who are currently a ways back in 7th spot, fully 5 points behind Liverpool, are at Brentford, who, as I mentioned, did for Man United last weekend, have that great record at home, and have an Igor Thiago who's in red-hot form. 5 goals this season in all competitions. Not a player that was on a lot of people's radar. Jack, were you kind of expecting big things from him?
All I'd seen of him was the form he had in Belgium with Brugge, because he was not someone who was particularly famous in Brazil. Then went to Ludogorets, which is probably my, now Shakhtar, slightly off radar, my favourite Brazilian outpost in Eastern Europe. Always 2 or 3. Actually, I looked at their lineup in the Europa League last week, and I think all of their attackers were Brazilian, and they had kind of a deeply kind of standard domestic defence, and then just like wildcard attackers all wearing like number 99 jersey. Fantastic stuff. Don't watch much Ludogorets though, I have to say, so he was not on my radar at that point. Reminds me a little bit of, there's a kind of strain of Brazilian strikers that the Premier League has been quite interested in the last few years. I think Joelinton, obviously a different player now, was kind of in that mould. Your muscle-bound guys. So yeah, his goals against Manchester United, I kind of think he sliced the first one. It was a little bit lucky with it, and the second one kind of hit him. So I'm not getting super excited yet.
Come on. What I'm getting excited about is the fact that Ludogorets are facing Real Betis this evening.
Green on green. 2 rare green kits.
Crikey.
I'm sure one of them will wear an away kit.
Maybe. Anyway, Igor Thiago, though, no longer of that parish, taking on Man City. That's Sunday, 4:30. And anybody want to predict City dropping points here?
I mean, City haven't been brilliant this season in the league. And as we say almost every time we talk about City, there's this temptation to think that, things have clicked and they're back. But I think there is still a vulnerability there. They showed against Burnley that They're still capable of scoring lots of goals and
showed against Monaco they're capable of conceding them.
Well, indeed. And like you say, Brentford, decent home form, a bit of a free hit for them. City obviously favourites, but I think the fact that Brentford have got these decent home results under their belts, that eager Thiago is now finding his feet. They'll fancy their chances.
Is Keith Andrews, Liam, not sure if you've been able to look at this, is he essentially just rolling out the same kind of Thomas Frank tactics as before, or has he made any significant changes?
I think part of the shape is the same kind of a base 4-3-3. They've made some kind of changes at fullback. They've obviously had transfers, and you can't copy and paste the kind of the same formula because they've lost kind of key forwards. So I think it's about reworking and re-engineering kind of the forward line. They've got Rico Henry now coming back into things, which is really big. He'd been out for an awfully long time. I think with him and Michael Kayode, a right back who has got I think he's a really well-rounded fullback, has played wing-back at times. Humongous long throw, can absolutely launch the ball. We're very much in an era of long throws in the Premier League now, but sometimes from guys that can throw it okay-ish and they're kind of gambling on second balls. This guy, like a javelin.
It's interesting to see the long throws in the Champions League midweek. Did you see Weston McKennie lobbing them in for
He's done that
Juventus?
for a while. I watched him a few years ago for the US, and he, for a small guy, has got a bit of power about him.
And he has a slightly different approach because he very much favours his right arm, almost like a quarterback.
Yeah. Vinnie Jones used to do that.
Did he?
When he was on long throw duty for Wimbledon, he would basically have his throwing hand behind the ball, and the left hand would kind of accompany it. And it looked a little bit like an illegal action, but who's going to tell Vinnie Jones that he's throwing it in wrong? Not me.
Absolutely. Brentford very much the kings of the long throw in the world's #1 division for long throw football, Premier League. Today is the anniversary of, in many things I imagine, but red and yellow cards being introduced to the Football League. Do you know which year they first made their appearance?
70s?
Wow, Jack, you're absolutely spot on. 1976. Oh. I would have thought it was ages ago. Well, I mean, I suppose 76 is ages ago, but even more ages ago than that.
And of course, red cards were circular back in the day.
Yes.
So you could tell the difference on TV. Amongst other reasons. But I think that was a big one.
Refs, so they could find the card more easily. They'd tell by the shape rather than...
So you just put them in different pockets.
Probably,
Well, that's what they do now.
And then you could also show the red card and then just frisbee it at the player as they walked off the pitch, as referees often did.
Like serving a summons. And if it touched you, you were off. But if you could avoid it, just... Anyway, the system of 2 fouls involving expulsion had, of course, existed before, but there hadn't been a physical demonstration of the kind of status just where you were.
The old Paul Durkin. Off.
I don't know, Liam.
You're off,
you
lad.
just point.
Off.
Yeah, you're off.
Lad. They always said lad in those days.
Chap.
Well, no.
First player to be shown a red card was Blackburn's David Wagstaff. The second, Jack, scare me. Do you know who the second player ever to be shown a red card in the English football's first division was?
No idea. Mark Lawrenson.
Football's George Best.
Oh.
Second best.
Well, in that case, yeah. Oh, remember when orange cards were going to be a thing? This was a couple of seasons ago. Were they trialled in youth football?
Like tactical fouls specifically is what I think.
Yeah.
Like sin bin stuff as well.
Sin bins,
Interesting concept.
Topically enough, football green cards, currently being used at the Under-20 World Cup in Chile. They are, though, not a disciplinary thing so much as an opportunity for the coaches. They're a bit like, you won't recall, it's a knockout, Jeux sans frontières, but when the teams will play their joker, the coaches can pull out their green card and hopefully brandish it at the referee when they want to challenge the referee's decision. They can do it twice a match, so I guess they get 2 of them, and then the referee will review. This is at the Under-20 World Cup in Chile. The referee will then review with the assistants, not of VAR, but FSV, Football Video Support, a rival organisation looking to muscle in.
They always should have used, I think, VAR on the appeal style basis.
Absolutely.
And it's instead of VAR.
Yes.
So this is the only video refereeing that takes place at this tournament. So you can only summon the VAR/FSV with the green card, which I think is good. And I'm encouraged that FIFA are trialing this because I think it reflects the fact that there is still dissatisfaction about the way that VAR is used, and that perhaps it might one day be put in the bin where it belongs.
I'm really excited about this FSV. What's it offering? Like, was VAR Betamax this whole time?
Maybe
it's not even FSV, it's FVS.
Yeah.
I'm reading the notes wrong.
It's very Bundesliga or
Football video support, FVS.
Football video support. They've taken this from ice hockey, of course, where coaches can have a coach's challenge. But the neat thing there is that if their challenge is not successful,
they can punch them.
their team then incurs a minor penalty, so they have to go a player down. If you appeal a referee's decision,
you can imagine the carnage of this in the Premier League, can't you? And then does the referee pick who goes off? Or
maybe you just get a yellow card against one of your players.
I can imagine the theatricality as well of like
you could just
95th minute, Jose Mourinho getting off the bench. What is he doing? He's got the green card in his hand. He's seen something.
Yeah.
Obviously not Mourinho because he's not in the Premier League anymore.
Not right now, but... ...
Kind of person you think would enjoy having a green card.
Might be some opportunities coming up in the Premier League soon. We've got 1 or 2 teams in trouble. We've got an international break coming up, and we all know. Do we? Actually, I mean, to what extent are international breaks percentage-wise more filled with managerial departures?
That is a great question. I'm paging Duncan Alexander for this one. That man will have that on a spreadsheet somewhere. I think it's compounded this season by, Sunderland especially, but. I guess less so Burnley, but collectively the promoted teams started fairly well. And obviously if you've not got kind of feels like no gimmies of who might go down this season, you've got more established Premier League teams, West Ham, Wolves in real trouble. That just naturally, I think, applies more pressure that in seasons gone by, they might have started as badly as this year, but if teams are doing worse than them, then it wouldn't kind of feel the same. It's always relative, and I think that is probably a healthy thing for the league in general, those promoted teams doing well, but bad news for any managers at struggling teams. They are going to be under pressure.
In unrelated news, Manchester United are facing Sunderland this Saturday at 3:00. It's Ruben Amorim's 50th game in charge. And there are those saying, is it going to be 50 and out? Because it's been that bad so far. We don't need to run through the litany of failure that they've had there. But Sunderland, let's talk instead about them. Best start by a newly promoted side, Tom, as you were confirming, since Big Sam's West Ham 13 years ago. Is Reggie Lebris, is he a big talking point for your matches a day? Yeah,
he is. We've had him, we've interviewed him a couple of times. We've filmed a couple of things in Sunderland. Obviously, a lot of French and Francophone players in the changing room. So yeah, lots of interest. And, it's been a while since there was a French coach in the Premier League, kind of doing great things and earning plaudits. So there's a lot of interest in what he's doing.
How do you pronounce the name?
There's this conjecture about this in France as well.
Oh, really?
Because I've heard Lebris and Lebris, but I've heard Lebris more than Lebris.
Say Lebris. It's very Breton, right? The name, yeah.
Good knowledge. Last 3 goals that Sunderland have scored have all been assisted by Granit Xhaka. How do you pronounce that in match? Oh no, I'll stop. But anyway, Sunderland are such a fantastic story this season, and we'll see if it continues. So Man United, nobody wants to see somebody lose their position, but after all the indignities they've suffered, getting beaten at home by Sunderland...
It would wrap things up, wouldn't it? I mean, the thing with Amorim, his 50th game, it brings to mind, is it the Shane Warne line on Monty Panesar? He hasn't played... Amorim hasn't managed 50 games. He's managed the same game 50 times. And that applies more here than it probably did to Monty Panesar. Because I was quite positive on Amorim early doors. And I think probably a feeling of goodwill has lasted longer than it has for some people. But yeah, it's got to the point now at which it's actually hard to imagine him clawing this back. And I think that happens to every manager eventually. Like you look at him and you don't see...
I see, as opposed to the normal paradigm where you've got a manager fighting to save his job and a club who are weighing up their options. With him, it seems more like a manager who's fighting desperately to leave and a club that's determined to keep him rather than admit they got it wrong.
Yeah, like his interviews, I think there's a fine line between honesty and defeatism, because the manager's job is a performative job, whether you like it or not. You are representing yourself
when your team is
public.
taking a penalty.
Right.
To stare at the floor as though disaster is about to happen is surely not uninspiring.
He was way too honest, way too early about how poor and not very good United were. There's an extent to which it's good to be honest and not do the shtick of this is a massive football club. We deserve or ought to be kind of top four or title chasing, and we're just not there because there's some kind of forces at play. But I think as Jack says, to be so defeated about it, and I think it seems to struggle to kind of get you out of that pit. If there's one green shoot, they've been good going forward in terms of chance creation this season. The bad problem is they've been very, very wasteful, the most wasteful team in the league. In terms of XG, they're actually the top side. Obviously, part of that is because they end up in quite a few losing game states as well, which is an even bigger problem and have to chase games and therefore make chances. But the system, as far as it goes to creating opportunities, is working. But obviously, it's an equally big problem that players aren't put in that way, whether that's because it's individuals being wasteful, good goalkeeping, a mix of other things. That is just a bigger problem, I think, and needs to be resolved.
Elsewhere in the Premier League this weekend, you got Leeds against Spurs. Spurs who had that 2-2 draw away against Bodo Glimt on Tuesday. Bournemouth taking on Fulham on Friday night. Bournemouth enjoying their best ever start to a top-flight season. Fulham, did you know they've committed the most fouls in the Premier League this season? Dirty Fulham. Friday night.
Very off-brand, the idea of Fulham as a load of hatchet men.
Yeah. Saka Lukic.
They've got a few in there, haven't they? It's I think that's a good part of their style.
You know when you've been in a game against Fulham, 4 games at 2 o'clock on Sunday, which one to watch, though? Options are Aston Villa against Burnley, Everton Palace, strong contender that one. Newcastle Nottingham Forest is surely going to be highly entertaining. And then there's also Wolves against Brighton. Lots of those clubs involved in Thursday night football. Forest hosting Midtjylland. Palace are away in Lubin taking on Dynamo Kiev in the Conference League. And Villa are at home. No, they're in Rotterdam against Feyenoord Thursday night in the Europa League. Crikey. Which one of those you'll pick, Jack? Those 4 games?
I would probably have to go for Newcastle Forest.
Would you? I'm going Everton Crystal Palace because Palace are great and it's a lovely new stadium.
Lovely.
Liam?
Wolves Brighton.
Why?
Because I'm a Brighton fan.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'll go Aston Villa Burnley then.
Very good. What do you make of Brighton's start to the season, Liam?
Good enough. They've got a really good capacity that they've shown since the start of last season to play up against bigger clubs, to stage these really impressive comeback wins. I think Fabian Hertzler has had some justified criticism of kind of his tactics and definitely playing lower half opposition. He's been really good at changing the game using his subs and kind of changing tactics as well. We saw that at Chelsea where he made some changes, brought on Danny Welbeck for Jorginho Rutter, and then moved Yankuba Minter from the right to the left. Minter then provided an assist for Danny Welbeck with a really good cross. So there's definitely work to be done. I think there's some questions still at centre-back and kind of how they deal with teams trying to play in behind them. But I think, generally speaking, they've adapted really well to kind of losing João Pedro and having to re-event once more.
Excellent. Brighton currently lying 10th in the Premier League, but it's early doors, of course. Palace doing so very, very well. And by the time you hear this, or certainly by the time they travel to Everton, could well be on a 19-game unbeaten streak, depending on what happens against Dynamo Kiev. Everton, is it no wins in 4 now?
In the league, no wins in 3. I think if you had the League Cup defeat against Wolves, that's 4.
Yeah, so Everton, no wins in 4 now. They did do the double over the Eagles last season, but that was then. They won't have any Dewsbury Hall in this game, though, on account of him picking up those 5 yellow cards. Tom, you were eager to tell us about Villa Burnley. Away you go.
Yes, Villa showing signs that they might be turning a corner. Very scratchy win against Bologna in Europa League. Then went behind at home to Fulham, and you thought, okay, well, here we go again. But then turned it around, to win. So that's 2 wins on the spin. We'll see how they get on against Rotterdam tonight. But Ollie Watkins has finally got off the mark. So for the first sign this season, a little bit of momentum. And we'll see whether that withstands the visit of Burnley.
Sunday, 2 o'clock. And, well, a bit later on the Sunday, we'll get together and discuss what it all means with our Totally Football Show, which, as ever, will have its recording live streamed on YouTube from around about 7:15, 7:30-ish But that wraps it up for today's show. So many, many thanks to Liam, to Jack, to Tom, and to producer Charlie, and you, listener. Do hope you have a great weekend. There's no totally extra this time around because we did it yesterday on the Tuesday night Champions League games, but there will be one next week. Oh, yeah. From all of us here, it's goodbye. The Totally Football Show podcast is available 3 times a week, bringing you all the football news you could reasonably be expected to care about. We've got views, we've got stats, we've got analysis, we've got some of the best football writers around, and the whole thing is absolutely free. So have a listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or all the usual places by clicking on the link below.